everybody, this is Zendrin, and today I'm going to talk about equipment and gear. Now, as you notice, when you start the game, you can pick from one of three classes: the Attack Mage, which I currently am, and I always have been, the Bounty Hunter, and the Mercenary. Now, all three of these have unique equipment. For the Tech Mages, you have your staffs. These staffs are, well, they're staffs. There's not much else you can say about them. Essentially, a stick with stuff on the end. But, each of these classes can also equip swords. Some new players may not know this, but swords are completely non-reliant on what class you are. And then, for mercenaries, you have your mauls, hammers, mauls, clubs, things like that. And you have your wrist blades, although I don't have any for your bounty hunters. But swords are completely unreliant on what class you are. So any class can use them, and any class can take advantage of whatever sword that they want, which is very good, because some swords are, pretty powerful. And aside from your primaries, you also have your sidearms, which are your guns, and hopefully they implement this in the future, but crossbows. That would be a very cool feature to see. And then your auxiliaries are your bazookas. You have bazookas on your back, and they can only be used once every 3 turns, but they have very, very high raw damage output. That's the main thing you'll see on a bazooka, is very high just raw damage. And what you want to make sure is that your gear will give you bonuses. Now, you want to make sure that your bonuses work with your build. Let's say you want to have a dexterity build, and you have pretty high base dexterity. You don't want all your bonuses going into support or going into technology if you want a build that has lots of dexterity. Now, I don't recommend having a build that focuses purely on one stat unless it's a proper stat, which in this case would be strength, support, or HP, but even then you want to have decent of other stats. But things like dexterity and technology generally don't work as a extreme build. I don't recommend trying to use certain extreme builds because some of them are hard to play as, but what you want to make sure is that your gear works with your build. Now, all gear has stat modifiers and base damage, and some are unblockable. Now, if your weapon is blockable, it has a base chance that your enemy will negate all of the damage that it does. Now, this chance goes up with your dexterity. The more dexterity your opponent has, the more chance they're going to have to block you. Now, how this works, contrary to what some people may think, especially the new players, since they don't have the experience that other players do. So it's not their fault for not knowing this, because it's never really explained in game. All it says is dexterity boosts defense and increases the chance to block, and it enhances certain skills. That increases the chance to block is a bit misleading. It may make you think if you have really high dexterity, you're going to block like crazy. But what that means is if your dexterity is a lot higher than what your enemy's is, you're going to have a higher chance to block. It's not based purely on your dexterity. It is based off of both. Now, the way that works is for every 4 more dexterity you have than your opponent, your chance to block goes up by 1, and their chance to block goes down by 1, and that's percent. So, if you have really high dexterity, and they have really low dexterity, you're going to have a very high chance to block, and they are going to have a very low chance to block. Now, even if you have, let's say, 100 dexterity, if your enemy has 100 dexterity, you're going to have the base chance to block. You're not going to get a boost. So make sure to keep that in mind when you're thinking about your build. It's how much higher your dexterity is, not how high your dexterity is. Now, the same works with support. Support affects many more things: your first strike, critical, deflection, rage, and your chance to be stunned. It works the same way. For every 4 more support you have than your enemy, your chance to go first increases by 1%, your chance to land a critical strike increases by 1%, your chance to deflect, and your chance to be stunned. Your deflection chance increases 1%, your stun chance decreases 1%. You're going to get 1% more likely to survive the stun and not get stunned. Now, the rage rate is it's a very small amount. You're not going to notice too much of a rage difference, but it is there, and it can help. Now, technology boosts the character's energy resistance and certain skills, but what they actually did not mention here, which they should update this, I'm pretty sure it's just something that sort of slipped their mind, but it also boosts your robot damage, robot damage improves with technology. Robots also inflict 7 times normal damage. It does mention here that it increases with technology, but it does not mention it here. Your strength increases the character's base damage range and enhances certain skills. So that's going to be for just your primary and your sidearm. Your support will affect your auxiliary, and your technology and your dexterity will increase your resistance and your defense. Now, your gear also has base damage. Now, this damage cannot be lowered no matter what. If somebody uses Intimidate on you, it's only going to lower your damage range, not your base damage. So this is where damage on gear really comes into play, because if you have low damage in gear, you're going to be more relying on your primary base damage range as opposed to your gear's range. If you have a high stat low damage weapon, you're going to be more relying on your stats to provide your damage than your actual raw damage output from the weapon itself. Now, another thing you have to take into consideration is that for mages we have the skill Deadly Aim. So not only do we get this, but you have the skill here Deadly Aim, which increases your sidearm damage. But it says passively increases the damage of the equipped sidearm. This will not increase if your strength is higher. See, I have 11 to 14 plus 31. It's not increasing the 11 to 14 plus 31 as a whole. It is only going to increase the 31. So take that into consideration. And the 31 with plus 8 Deadly Aim will give you plus 9 damage on your sidearm, meaning you're going to be relying even less on your strength stat and more just on the raw damage capability of the weapon. This is why weapons are so useful, because having a high damage weapon is a way to protect yourself from the mercenary's skill Intimidate. And now, you also have resistance and defense on your armors. This is going to add unlowerable resistance and unlowerable defense onto your character. Different armors have different amounts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and some of the unique armors have 8, but those are only for the administrators and potentially some of the moderators right now. But what these are going to do is, let's say you have low resistance, but you have this plus 7 here. Even if my resistance gets lowered to 0 to 0, you know, it says 0 here to 0 here, that plus 7 will always be there, meaning I'm always going to have that 7 resistance no matter what. There's no way currently that that can be lowered or removed. So that's one reason that armor is so useful, because it gives you permanent protection as well as giving you some stat modifiers, and its only requirements right now are levels. The Assault Bot currently and the Gamma Bot increase with technology, and they both have unique special abilities. The Assault Bot reduces 80% of debuff effects from the target. What this means is if you're intimidated, malfunctioned, or smoke screened, it will remove 80% of that effect from you at the cost of 1 turn. The Gamma Bot currently has a nuclear-powered assault, which is an energy-powered laser beam that fires at your enemy for high damage, as well as having a physical fist punch attack, meaning it gives you more options for what kind of damage you want to do. Let's say you've used your gun, your auxiliary, and your weapon's physical, but you still want to do energy damage, you can use your nuclear-powered assault special to do that damage. So that's really all I have for the gear and extended stats tutorial, and hopefully it helped you. Another thing that I just want to add is that you do have bikes for your gear, but they really don't affect anything in game, so I didn't bother talking about them too much. They just increase your movement speed and look pretty damn nice. So they'll help you travel across the maps, and then you also have your boosters and items only, which are currently just boosters. They increase your health and your energy every time you use them. And then you can view your whole inventory here. And items only goes in consumable items. But that's really all that there is to talk about for this, so hopefully you enjoyed the video, and have a good day.